will reconvene in public session the Thursday, November 18th, 2021, Burbank Unified School District Board of Education meeting. And I will ask Dr. Miller, would you please come and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thank you for all rising. If you'll place your right hand over your heart, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Thank you so much. Tonight's, first of all, I think this switched around, but Ms. Clark, would you please take the roll call at this time?
Member Agakanian?
Present.
Member Weisberg?
Present.
Clerk Ferguson?
Present.
Vice President Tappett?
Present.
And President Frintner.
Present. Thank you so much. I would like to remind everyone present to please make sure that they are wearing a mask and that their mask completely covers their nose and mouth. It looks like everyone is, so we thank you very much. Tonight's meeting, first we acknowledge the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Chumash, Tongva, Fernandino, Tataviam, and First Nations on which we are learning, educating, and living. Tonight's meeting will be adjourned in the memory of John Leosis, patriarch of the Coral Cafe restaurant family, who was a fixture in our community and someone who did so much to support school and community fundraisers. We are at item number 5, reporting on closed session. Closed session items 3A through 3E were for discussion only with no action taken. Next, adjustments to the agenda. Do we have any adjustments? Board members or staff? Seeing none, thank you. We'll move to item 7, items for future agendas.
President Frintner.
Mr. Ferguson.
Thank you very much. I will be asking, so as folks can see, we do have pretty full meeting agendas, and our past few meetings have gone till about 10:30, 11 o'clock, if not later. And a lot of that is kind of the ministerial duties of approving all of the different contracts and orders that are required. We're in a pandemic, we're spending more, so there's more to approve. That takes longer. That, on top of a political environment, makes it really tough to have deeper conversations, sometimes about the policy areas that we are entrusted to have conversations about. So I'm gonna ask for a series of study sessions to be scheduled between now and March 15th, which is the layoff and RIF notice period, which is actually just more of a budget deadline to think through. But ask at the following study sessions in this order or in an order that would later be communicated with the board. But first on communication, this would include an overview of social media being used by sites, rules around that. Next, being a budget study session. In that, discussing a compensation plan, long-term compensation plan, along with any budget savings and the exploring of different learning models, potential cost savings with that. Another session on fundraising rules. Another on foundation relations, generally. And then a last one being on board norms and board self-evaluation, as we're about to rotate officers. So those between now and March 15th, if ideal, I think the board norms and self-eval can be scheduled really at the will of the incoming president and folks, but just want to get those agendized with the nod of the board.
Thank you, and I think we have agreement from everyone on the board. Certainly, we were ready to bring up at least one of those myself, so that's good to hear, and I think that is a good idea that we start scheduling these out. Any other items for future agendas? None? Okay. We will move on to our presentations and recognitions. We have 2 presentations, or actually recognitions tonight. The first is the recognition of Amelia Cheatham as our 2021 Teacher of the Year. So, Ms. Cheatham, if you will join us at the podium, please. There we go. In the last, every year, there are Teacher of the Year for each district voted on by their the other teachers. Sorry, and Burbank has actually had a great run of Teachers of the Years that have done that have been moved up to the State Teacher of the Year competition. But the county of LA has, I want to say 47, I believe, districts. And Ms. Cheatham was our Teacher of the Year for 2021 and a great representative, and was one of 15 of the LA County Teachers of the Year that moved on to the State Teacher of the Year competition. So once again, representing our district very well. The luncheon that they have for them, I've had a chance to go to for a few years right now, is always great because it's really exciting to see the teachers talk about what made them enjoy teaching and what inspires them and how they try and inspire other people. And hearing you talk at that luncheon was the same thing. And I just, I'm always just incredibly impressed. So congratulations. I'm going to ask Dr. Prom and also say a few words.
Well, you're a superstar, and everybody says so many wonderful things about you. I've been able to see that and witness that. You have a very proud principal who admires and cherishes you, and so do the kids and families. So congratulations. It's a major accomplishment, and we're very proud of you.
Thank you so much. Well, okay, I wasn't expecting to say anything. I am very honored to be Mira's Teacher of the Year and Burbank's Teacher of the Year, and also an LA County Teacher of the Year. I grew up in Burbank, and I'm really proud to represent this district. So thank you, everyone, for your support.
We'll do one with your staff, yeah, and then we'll do one with the board.
And the rest of the board? Yeah, no, stay.
Let me stand behind. I came straight from school, so I'm dressed like, I look like a hobo.
Was this working?
Squeeze more. Prom pictures, prom pictures.
Thank you so much.
Were you smizing?
Yes.
And Mr. Ferguson, if you want to stay up here while we move to our next presentation, or recognition, and I'll ask the city clerk, Mrs. Zep Mullins, to come up and join us. I'll have you stand between us. How's that? A lot of people are probably not aware that for several years running, the city clerk's office, in conjunction with the clerk of the board, conducts the Clerk's Cup competition at our high schools. And the purpose of that is to try and get as many of our eligible students as possible to register to vote. And Ms. Mullins has been instrumental in that because she's been clerk the whole time. I've been lucky enough to have done it with you for a few years. Mr. Ferguson did it this year, so I'll hand the mic over to him.
Well, thank you, President Frittner. 6 years ago, you and I were having a cup of coffee, and you were speaking about your eagerness upon assuming office of getting young people involved and activated. And I was a young person who just got elected. And together we talked about a partnership that really you drove and said, hey, you're clerk of the city, I'm clerk of the district, why don't we partner and raise awareness about voter registration efforts? And while I rotated out of that job many times ago, others have, as President Frittner has rotated through, you kept going. And as a result, thousands of kids have been connected with their democratic rights. And that's what partnership is all about. So it's an honor to rotate back in as clerk and to hand back the microphone to the guy who actually counts.
And just in recognition of all the work and effort that you have put in this over the years, and including this year, we wanted to offer you a certificate of appreciation from the board for your efforts. So, thank you.
Just want to quickly thank you all, the board, every one of you, and hi. This is definitely a team effort. This is not just the city clerk's office. The school district have been wonderful. All the principals have been participating. The students have listened to us, and they do participate. And also my staff in the city clerk's office, they do work hard to make sure that we're counting everything. So I do want to continue to, as long as I'm here in the city of Burbank. And I think that we've already created the momentum that this will go on forever, even though we started over a cup of coffee. But we can always talk about it and look back and say, you know what? We have our fingerprints on it, and we're very proud what we do to help our students register to vote. So I do appreciate so much the recognition, and I applaud the school district for continuing to work with my office to do the Clerks Cup, the competition. So this year it went to Burbank High. So hopefully next year Burroughs can steal it back. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, we will move on to reports from the board, starting with our student representatives. And first up tonight is Isaiah Chichil from Monterey High School.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Frittner, members of the board, Superintendent Hill, and senior staff. Saturday, November 20th, 10 lucky students from Monterey High School will be, will be assisting in a parade at the Rose Bowl Stadium. Beginning Monday, November 29th through Friday, December 3rd, Monterey High School will be having a 5-on-5 basketball shootout for a prize of 1 free meal to In-N-Out. And unfortunately, that is all the news we have because we're such a small school, and I just seen you guys 2 weeks ago. But unfortunately, that is all the events that we have going on for us.
Okay, Mr. Ferguson?
It's not unfortunate. You guys are pulling it together, and it's a lot of work. And by the way, I've played basketball against some of those students, so I know it's going to be a great event. So thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jewel Reeder from Burroughs High School.
Hello, and good evening to everybody in attendance tonight. I'd like to begin my report by thanking the Destiny Project for their generous donation that gave us the ability to finally cover up the sign in front of our school that had connections to our old mascot, the Indians. This positive change has been well overdue on our campus, and the student body is super grateful and excited for more changes moving forward. Along with this, our Student Outreach Committee has been working on celebrating Native American Heritage Month on our campus. They have been contacting local tribes to provide a speaker to discuss Native American culture and why this month is so important, creating posters to honor the month, and working with the admin to have a proper land acknowledgement at our school-wide. Along with this, the EDI committee at Burroughs is working on creating their very own little library in our community. Their goal is to have a book drive and fill the library with books about diversity for all age levels. Coming up, ASB is hosting the holiday food drive from November 29th to December 10th. We are collecting donations school-wide to donate to the Burbank Coordinating Council or Burbank Temporary Aid Center. ASB hopes to continue working with local philanthropy organizations throughout the year. In other events, Burroughs Play Production is hosting their own production of Puffs this weekend in our quad. And on November 10th, we recognized our student athletes who signed to their future colleges at lunch in the quad. We would like to congratulate Lincoln Melcher playing boys golf at UCLA, Olivia Cam playing softball at Brown University, Megan Lynch playing girls volleyball at Fresno State, Braden Sibley Ackerman playing baseball at Norfolk State University, and Bella Lomé playing girls volleyball at Bates College. The College Prementors hosted a workshop on Saturday, November 6, where parents and students could work on their FAFSA and college applications with help from the CPMs and counselors. They have also been hosting workshops during academic excellence for students to get help on anything college-related. On Wednesday, we hosted a FAFSA workshop in the small gym. Today was our Freshman Friendsgiving, hosted by Link Crew. Freshmen showed up to enjoy food and music with their Link Crew leaders and groups. Today, ASB also met with Together We Can to discuss our plan to have a week-long dedicated to safe driving and school-wide driver's ed in spring of 2022 at Burroughs. Tomorrow is our Fall Food Festival. All sorts of clubs across campus are raising money by selling food at lunch, such as Acai Jungle and Yogurtland. Thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Ms. Tappett?
Yes.
I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time, but I too was in the meeting with Together We Can, and I was really impressed with Mr. Hubble's plan for the spring for Burroughs, and I really want to open the door to invite Monterey and Burbank to participate in that same event at the same time. I think he's put together a great program and a lot of work, but you kids are amazing. I know you can get it done, and so I want to make sure that they're both included in that idea that Mr. Hubble put forth to the committee today. And the committee was very excited about it too, so that's a good thing. They've been trying to get something on unsafe driving, racing going at the school sites at the grassroots level for a while, and I think this is just spot on. So it'll be good if we could include everybody.
Totally agree. Thank you.
Thanks, Jules.
Thanks. Thank you. And finally, we have Shoshana Terpetrosyan from Burbank High.
Good evening, Board President Frittner, members of the board, Superintendent Hill, and senior staff. ASB has been keeping busy with various activities, and this week is our Kindness Week, which acts as a Spirit Week. On Monday was Be Kind to Your Earth Day, where we wore green. Tuesday was Hats Off to our staff, where we wore our craziest hats. Wednesday was when we wore yellow to be rays of kindness. And today was Be Kind to BHS Day, where we celebrated by wearing Burbank High merch. And on Friday will be kind to ourselves by wearing comfy clothes. Kindness on our campus is a key factor of our culture, and we wish to represent. So we urged our student population to participate, and we spoke out about the importance of small acts of kindness and their lasting effect. The activities that followed included kindness grams with sweet messages and candy, and in the quad we wrote nice messages in chalk. ASB is also collaborating with a largely influential club on our campus, Key Club, to host a recycling competition throughout the week where donuts will be awarded to the 4th period class with the most bottles. Our Kindness Week took place during Transgender Awareness Week, where ASB worked with GSA to spread information about trans rights and the importance of respecting others. Our philanthropy commissioners are holding a prep book drive in the library for used and unused prep books located in the carts in the back. The book drive is open throughout the year to all students. We love the staff involvement with our student body, and this Friday, our girls soccer team is going to play against our staff on the field at 3:15 as a fundraiser. We are grateful to have such devoted mentors. On November 10th, ASB announced that Grad Night will be held at Disneyland, and the feedback we got from our seniors was amazing. We're super excited to celebrate the class of 2022 at the happiest place on earth. For our arts department, we are ecstatic to announce that our marching band won 3rd place at the Moore Park Battle of the Bands. The dance show Emergence is continuing on through Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. This is the first dance show in person after a very unique year, so I encourage everyone to experience the art of dance through the talent of our dance teams. Our speech and debate team is holding their 5th annual Burbank debate on Monday, November 22nd at 6 p.m. in our auditorium. We appreciate the great opportunity to hear different points of view and learn new things. To end off my report, our boys water polo team ended off their season with a bang by winning 2nd in CIF Southern Section Division 5. We suspect more success to come, and we couldn't be more pleased with our student athletes. Thank you. Are there any questions I can answer? Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you. We'll move on to item 10, reports to the board. The first report is 10A, first reading of Educator Effectiveness Block Grant. Ms. Casale.
Could I have the slides, please? Good evening, President Frittner, members of the board, superintendent, and members of the Burbank community. This is the first reading of the Educator Effectiveness Grant. The grant was established to improve student outcomes by providing support to staff, teachers, and other staff members as well. It's part of the COVID relief plan. And the term of the grant is from 2021 through all the way through 2026, which enables us to go back to the beginning of the school year and then use the money in the future as well. The allowable use of funds are coaching and mentoring of staff, standards-aligned instruction and literacy, accelerated learning. And in this case, accelerated learning does not mean like advanced learning. It means staying on grade level content while supporting students to fill in the gaps so they don't lose more. The practices of social emotional learning, trauma-informed practices, suicide prevention, and access to mental health services as well as part of this. Inclusive practices, which refers to including special education students in more programs, language acquisition for English learners, strengthening and building bilingual and biliterate proficiency, new professional learning networks for teachers that aren't participating, ethnic studies, and early childhood education. Doesn't mean we have to have all of our money for all of those programs, but what meets the Burbank needs. So for Burbank, for the first year, we're going to spend $1,388,000, then $250,000 in the second year, then $843,000 the next 2 years, for a total of $3,324,018. And I'm going to go over how we're going to spend that. So what we want to do is increase elementary allocations for interventions and supplemental intervention materials. That's $352,000. Academic engagement and innovation software. It's a variety of software, including iReady and BrainPop, UZLA. Increase social emotional learning support, which we're getting from Family Service Agency of Burbank. Culturally responsive teaching professional development, which is facing history. teacher collaboration time for ethnic studies course development. So one of the things that happened was the governor approved a graduation requirement of ethnic studies. We have some time, it's several years down the road, but we want to develop our course and be ready, so we just implement as soon as possible. But we need to have some time for teachers to collaborate on that. The next change is that we've expanded transitional kindergarten. So next school year, the age has gone backwards so that we can accept more students, and it's gonna, every year it's gonna increase. So we need some time for that too.
Ms. Caseo, if I could just jump in. So for
Sure.
some of the 21, 22, that's this school year, some of those expenses we had on other funding. And so we were looking at the federal COVID funding, and this is new funding. We had other expenditures on that other funding. So you've seen some of these items before. I just want to clarify, it's not additional to what we're doing. It's just aligning to putting it on this funding source.
Right. And then, let's see, where are we? I'm sorry. The academic growth and support coordinators, those are the two people that are working with this now to really monitor every single student in our district and make sure that we can understand their base level of performance, where they need support, and we're monitoring how they're doing throughout the year. So we want another year of that as well. And then the last two items are to support the dual immersion salaries of teachers at McKinley and Disney. So that has been a really important program for us, the dual immersion, and it's done very well. But it's also pretty costly to the district. So this money allows us to maintain that program by supporting the salaries, which is an allowable expense for the grant. And that's it. Any questions for me? Yes.
Go ahead, Dr. Weisberg.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Quick question about the increased SEL support
Yes.
for FS. Do we know what that's going to look like, just sort of generally? Is it additional staff? It looks like Superintendent Hill is going to.
Go ahead.
So that's one of the items that we had on the other federal stimulus.
Okay.
So that's what we've expanded. We added one therapist to the district, our Go There campaign to build awareness, and the third is they're working with us to develop a referral process.
Great.
And so that's why I want to clarify, because we presented that before, but the federal money, we needed to use that to support the additional nursing staff and
Right.
LVN. So we're using the other federal money, which is allowable for that freed up to move have nurses for the rest of the, additional nurse support for the rest of the year, and then we put them on this one.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to 10B, the report on the Superintendent's Fundraising Advisory Committee. Dr. Paramo.
Good evening, Board President Frittner, distinguished board members, Superintendent Dr. Hill, and members of the audience. My name is John Paramo. My pronouns are he, him, and his. We have Wendy Harville, our president of the Fundraising Advisory Committee, present. Is she here? Yeah. Awesome. I could not be as charming as she is anyway, so we're going to let her present for us. Thank you. I didn't see you. I'm sorry.
And I apologize for not introducing Ms. Harville because I didn't see you there.
Hello, thank you. Hello, everybody. Good evening, President Frittner, esteemed board members, Dr. Hill, Burbank Unified staff, and the Burbank community, both present and at home. My name is Wendy Harville, and I am here to give you a status update on the Fundraising Advisory Committee. At our last meeting, we adopted the calendar for the 2021-2022 year, and the following people were elected. Myself as chair, Anna Connell as vice chair, and Amy Cam as clerk. We had a very robust conversation about changes to the bylaws that has gone back to the Bylaws Review Committee, but I am hopeful that we will get the changes made and approved by our next meeting. The best news is that the applications are close to being live. A huge shout out to Robin Anders for all of his work to make these forms fillable to ensure ease of completion. I'd like to also thank the application subcommittee for all of the work to get these done. As a refresher, there are 3 categories of applications: new programs that are not currently in place, modification or expansion of existing programs, or facilities or capital projects requests. Once the group determines which type of application they want to fill out, they will fill out the short form application to be approved by John Paramo and Peter Knapik. Once they have signed off, the group will then fill out the long form application, which asks for further details, including demonstration of need, statement of impact, timeline, support, evaluation plan, and budget information. That concludes my report, but we're getting there. We're super close. Is there any questions?
Mr. Ferguson.
First, congratulations on your election as chair.
Thanks.
You get to keep.
It was a hard fought one. I mean, it was rough.
You know, in these times of division, I'm glad everybody could unite behind your leadership. You know, thank you for your work, and all of this kind of the process work matters, and it really counts, and it's very tedious. So again, just thank you, and thank you to all of our new officers. Earlier in the meeting, I asked for a study session on fundraising policies generally in the district. We've gone through COVID. We are doing our best to try and establish policies that bring equity to fundraising. We have, you know, certain limitations as to what we can do as a district, certainly, and then eventually parents just go around us and start sending their own kids to camp and start doing their own things. But the reality is that this is a great experiment called public education. And it succeeds best when we aren't leaving kids behind. So I want to invite you and other members of that committee to participate during that time, not necessarily in a joint format, but again, that you're active participants as we discuss kind of new direction is my hope as to what can create more equitable fundraising outcomes in the long term for our district.
That'd be great. I'd be happy to.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Anybody?
Ms. Tabbitt? You look like
Well,
you're
it's been
reaching for your microphone.
Yeah, it's been quite the process, and a lot of learning has come through. And when you speak, Mr. Ferguson, about bringing equity to fundraising, I mean, that was one of the main focuses of our group to do this. It's really hard, though, so I'm looking forward to that conversation as well. Because you certainly, as we've gone back and forth, you don't want to be prohibitive in any way so that people aren't being creative and trying to figure things out that are good. But at the same time, while you're doing that, let's make it good for everybody. So I think I'm pretty proud of this committee for their work towards that. And
Absolutely. The conversations that we've had have been really great because people have so many different perspectives, and I think it's been really nice to have everybody in the same room kind of talking about that. So I'm really looking forward. As I said, the application process is like our first, once we get that going, then that's actually our process in moving forward, and it's going to be great. So I can't thank everybody who's on the committee enough. It has been, yes, a lot of work, but it's been necessary and really great work. So, yeah.
Dr. Adkani.
I also want to thank you and also commend you because also what's happening now with our schools and budgets is more than ever, you know, where needs of policies are sound in the interest of all our students, especially for future programs. I'm looking at college readiness, and so thank you very much for doing this. And you know, I look forward to seeing more of where we're going with this. But I just want to thank you personally.
You're welcome, and
And
thank
the
you.
And I'll just say, Ms. Ferguson, as I pointed out, you asked for a study session for fundraising, which was actually part of the discussion at during the last fundraising committee
And we didn't
meeting.
talk.
Because there's discussion about, where the where the process should lie and who should make determinations. While this has been a fantastic committee and doing great work, there's also the idea that some of this direction still needs to come from the board and the administration, and that is only going to be possible through a study session. So that's something the committee has been very actively discussing as well. So, and thank you so much for leading.
You're so welcome. All right, thank you.
Move on to 10C, the report on the Safe Driving Initiative. Dr. Paramo.
Yes, good evening. Thank you for the slides. Vice President Tabbitt and I have had the opportunity to meet with the Burbank Police Department and the clerk of our city council to come together and to discuss the issue of safe driving, in particular the unsafe driving on Glen Oaks and the accident that occurred this last summer. So part of that discussion was centered on providing opportunities for students to receive information from the police department on safe driving. So our discussion was really focused on how do we facilitate that and what's the best way to do that. We discussed several different platforms, but what we realized is that in order for this to really be effective for our students, it really needs to be done in a small group setting. So the idea was to work with BPD to put the curriculum together, then they would present it to our kids in small group. So the vision for this is to work with our health teachers and the health curriculum. It has a nice continuity with health because there's a safety unit in the curriculum already. I was able to secure support from our health teachers via the health task force. They were ready, enthusiastic to be able to give up some of their time to be able to have the police department come in and to present to the kids. So that was a little bit easier than I thought it was going to be, and they were actually pretty excited about it. So we are working on producing the curriculum. We are working on how to present the materials. And I did have discussion with both with our principals at the secondary, and they are on board with this, and they are welcoming the opportunity to give this to our students. So there are still a few things that we still need to determine. Since I put this PowerPoint together, I've had another conversation with the police department, and what we're thinking is that each class would get 3 one-hour presentations starting in January. So they would have one pass, and they would go through all the classes in one pass, and then they'd come back and do a second session with them, and then a third. That part is fluid. We're going to wait to get feedback from teachers and from students to see if that third session is necessary. But for sure, the first 2 are going to be really important. And we are still working on how we want to name the curriculum. They proposed a couple of ideas. I gave them some feedback, so we're still working through that process. We hope to get this all finalized before we leave on winter break so that we are ready to roll in the spring. Are there any questions I can answer for you?
Mr. Ferguson, and then we'll come this way.
Thank you, Dr. Paramo. Have we considered having, while the police come in and facilitate a part of the conversation, but a non-officer, a non-uniformed personnel to kind of accompany during that presentation?
I think it's a great idea. I would love to be part of that, and I can work with the police department. In all honesty, I'm waiting to see the curriculum first, and I'm waiting to see what they're going to present to figure out how I can integrate that, for sure.
Okie doke. And previously, when I've reached out to secondary principals, about meetings like this, they tend to express concern with capacity. So so we can facilitate 3 one-hour-long sweeps of schools, but other priorities seem to be bigger struggles. So I'm curious about that.
Sure. So I believe that the reason why our health teachers are willing to do this and give up 3 one-hour sessions is because it identifies areas in the curriculum they were going to have to cover anyway.
Okay.
And to be honest, I was more worried. I'm not sure they realize how big a time commitment that is, because it's 5 classes per teacher.
Yeah.
So, and I had that conversation with the detective this week, and so we're still brainstorming that idea. It might be, in all honesty, getting 2 classes together and doing it still small group, but it's going to save a little bit of time. Still working through the logistics. I'm hoping to be able to finalize that and then report back to the board and give you the details.
Okay. My hope would be that, again, health teachers have consistently complained to the board that we dump tons of things on their plate. And here they are accepting a pretty significant precedent of a 3-hour presentation in an ongoing fashion. At a minimum, I'm hoping that we can have a non-uniform individual there.
Sure.
It can be a doctor who can talk about the trauma afterwards of recovering. I mean, or whatever. I also think that if we can start, again, exploring partnerships with the police department, the courts, to explore, can schools be involved in high-speed tickets, in the remedy for that? Can they do service on campus? Can we keep them from going to an event if they speed? Until we get smarter, I don't think scared straight and a badge and an officer and a gun in front of a campus, in front of classes, are going to do much. It will tell them of an issue that's already happening, but if we're talking about changing hearts and minds, I just worry that this is a pretty simple approach.
Dr. Weisberg.
Thank you. Thank you. I will say briefly to Mr. Ferguson's point, it could be an interesting thing to explore how teen court, who we're already working with, could perhaps be involved in some form of, however we decide if a student is speeding or is ticketed, it could be a really fantastic opportunity to involve the restorative justice model that teen court is using, and since we already have a relationship with them. I wondered if you could talk, so it sounds like they're going to develop the curriculum and then you're going to review it. So it's not going to be something that the health teachers are just handed.
That's correct. And your comments are well taken. I think they're very appropriate and right on. It's hard for me to comment because I haven't seen the presentation yet.
Right.
So this is really helpful for me, and I think that although it wasn't strategically planned, this process is really going to help me because now that I understand where you are coming from, I'll be applying that when I actually look at the presentation.
That's great. Thank you.
Sure.
Dr. Agahanian.
Thank you, and I appreciate all the work you're doing regarding this important matter. I'm just curious, have you seen an increase of police presence ever since the incident? Because, it's one thing to talk about curriculum, it's another thing, to have police there. Yes.
You mean around? I didn't hear the
More,
patrol.
in that area, patrol and just, because again, I will tell you, in the old days when they were racing,
Sure.
And now they have cell phones and they know if there's a police officer. I'm just curious if there is
Right.
more presence of police officers, and if the city has told us anything about more patrolling.
Can
Yeah.
I jump in? When Dr. Paramo and I met with the chief, it was not to say there's I can wait. It was not to say that there's a problem and you need to fix it. There's a problem, you need to put more patrolmen out there. It was more to say we want to be part of some kind of solution so one more kid doesn't end up
I completely understand, but
so
that's not my question.
I know, but we don't have any way of knowing that unless we happen to be driving up and down Glen Oaks and see. So that wasn't what I'm trying to say. Is that wasn't part of our conversation.
I understand, okay. But, do we know? Have we asked the question?
So I am in that area, addressing needs of the schools in that vicinity. I definitely see a presence. What I can't tell you is whether or not it's an increased presence, but that is definitely something that I can work with our sites who would know a little bit better than I would and get that information to be able to bring it back. And I can also ask the police directly on that.
And I would also like to see some subcommittees from certain communities also. They want to be part of this, to be more informative.
Sure.
There are certain figures in certain communities that come forward who can talk to the parents and relate to them more and more if we have to. That's something we can talk about as well.
Absolutely.
There is a couple of groups that are working on things for their community, and we just haven't gotten to the point where they've shared what they're going to do, but they have voiced similar concerns and will also want to do it in small group work as well. So it may not be something that happens on our school campuses, so to speak, but definitely is the conversations out there that they are starting these different groups are starting some programs.
Can I also ask that we reach out to the Burbank Ministerial Association?
Okay.
That seems also to be where families gather. So being able to help get messages out to family, especially religious groups on the hillside, religious leaders can help spread the word, I think, as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
Moving on to 10D, the report on facilities and technology projects. Ms. Kukta.
Thank you, John. You got me all set up. If we can get the PowerPoint. I'm here tonight to go over the bond projects that are on our consent agenda tonight. We have item 13N, which is an additive change order for Walt Disney Elementary School for Lundgren Management. It's an amount not to exceed $564,215. This adds $12,369 for project management for 2 additional bid packages. So, any questions? I would like to add, though, that if you drive by Disney, they're taking the scaffolding down after all of the stucco has been put up. And technology is planning on going next week to get in there and start reassessing and aligning and getting everything set up. So it's pretty exciting.
When appropriate, can we set up site walks for the board?
Great idea.
Thank you very much.
Great idea.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 11, request to address the board. The district has a new procedure for addressing the board. There are 3 separate comment periods. The first was prior to the closed session, which was to address any closed session items. The second is now the public communications on agenda items. Comments must pertain to public session items on this agenda. And to comment on those, please complete a white request card, which are available at the entrance. The third public comment period will be later in the meeting. That will be public communications on subjects within the jurisdiction of the school board. If your comment does not pertain to an item on tonight's agenda, you may comment regarding any subject within the jurisdiction of the Board of Education during the final section of public communications. To do that, please complete a blue request card. The superintendent and board comments will also now take place during the final response to public communications. At the moment, I have no white cards for comments on agenda, on agenda items. Yes, ma'am.
So the last meeting that I was watching, we were speaking, well, the parents were speaking in the beginning. Is that now at the end?
Well, as I just tried to lay out, that we've restructured the public comments. So if you are speaking towards one of the agenda items, and right now there are 3 agenda items, 2 resolutions on our consent agenda, that would be the time to speak towards any of those items. Any other comments that are just general comments on items that are of interest to the district will be held for the last comment period. So and I know that may sound confusing, so is it, if there's any more confusion, or, yes, Dr. Weisberg.
The restructuring is, one of the things that was getting lost is the business. Public comment is extremely important to all of us, but we also wanted to make sure that we were getting an opportunity to talk about really important issues as well. So that's where the restructuring came. It isn't there to squash or to try to keep people from speaking in any stretch of the imagination. It's there so that we can better balance the meeting. It is.
Silencing the people. Who wants to stay here at 10 o'clock at night? We've got children.
I'm going to ask that we warn the speaker because they're speaking outside of public comment.
Yes. We did not have to, this was not something that we had to put up to a vote. We are trying to streamline the meeting so that we are getting to the business of the meeting as well as public comment. We have not cut out public comment. People are still going to have their opportunity to speak. And if we can move through our agenda, we will get to that period sooner. So I will ask again if there are any public comment cards for agenda items. If there are not, we can close this section of public comment and move forward. Okay? Yes, that would be a white card. That was the one from before.
President Frittner, the blue card you have for Miss Aviva Williams should be treated as a white card. Thank you.
What item on the consent calendar?
13C.
Thank you.
Okay, so, Ms. Williams, if you'd like to, because you are the only speaker for an agenda item, so.
Okay, yes. Good evening. I did not realize the process had changed. My topic is related to Subject 13C, the personnel report, specifically one individual on the personnel report, Mrs. Isabel Santa Cruz. My daughter started kindergarten this year. She loved her new teacher, Mrs. Santa Cruz. At the virtual back-to-school night, Mrs. Santa Cruz told the parents that she was born to teach kindergarten. She taught her kids about the Alpha Friends. She signed her emails in rainbow letters. She taught my daughter, who loves to draw, how to draw girls with braided hair. So we were puzzled when our daughter came home in late October and told us that Mrs. Santa Cruz was taking a break. A couple of weeks later, we got an email from the school announcing a new permanent teacher for the kindergarten class. We all wondered, what happened to Mrs. Santa Cruz? Several parents, myself included, have contacted the school and the school board trying to get clarity on the situation. We have been ignored or stonewalled with a response that the administration cannot discuss personnel issues. I understand that, but I'm sorry it's not a satisfactory answer. It is your job to communicate something to us about who is teaching our children and why their classroom is being disrupted. These are little kids, they don't understand what's going on. Then they've suffered enough over the last year and a half. The rumor going around, because we have no information, is that Mrs. Santa Cruz was fired for being unvaccinated. Even though this is a complicated issue, the lack of clear and direct communication about who's teaching our children is unacceptable. The unexplained and unannounced disappearance of Mrs. Santa Cruz, regardless of the reason, is not okay. It makes us struggle to find an explanation for our children, and it does not build the impression that anyone present is handling the situation in good faith. So I have two messages tonight. The first is for my fellow parents and community members. This is how the district treats a dedicated teacher. As best we can tell, she was removed from her classroom for reasons unrelated to her work performance. I don't know when we have done that in the past. And also, this is how the school board treats our children. They took a teacher that they love away in the middle of the year. My daughter almost cried when I told her that Mrs. Santa Cruz isn't coming back. Other parents told me that their children did cry and are continuing to struggle. Our kids don't deserve this. My second message is to the school board members and to Dr. Hill. Your handling of this fiasco is shameful. You imposed a draconian and inflexible vaccination policy on your teachers a week before the start of the new school year. Your vaccine mandate does not offer a testing option. It's vaccinate or you can't teach. This is a bad policy, I'm sorry. It has harmed our children. I call on you to reconsider this policy and rescind it immediately. And lastly, I urge you to reconsider your actions regarding Mrs. Santa Cruz. You should do the right thing and reinstate her to her classroom. My daughter and her classmates want their teacher back.
Yes, ma'am.
Mine is in regards
to the vaccine mandates as well.
That's, she was speaking to the personnel report. So the vaccine mandate is not an agenda item, so that would wait till later. She, was referring to a person who was on the personnel report. If there are no other white cards, we will close this section of public communication. Staff responses, Dr. Hill?
Thank you. We did have an email correspondence, and I'm just going to share again. Any transition from a teacher is challenging. I know Ms. Tipton, the new teacher, is happy to work with you and your children to have a smooth transition. The only comment I can make, as you see, is Ms. Santa Cruz did resign. It's on the personnel report. Reasons behind resignations or any personnel action, we cannot comment in public. It's a private matter for those individuals. Thank you.
Any board member comments? Mr. Ferguson?
Thank you. Obviously, our public comment rollout is a little rough right now. So if we could record either like a video or do an e-news on our new public comment process, just to get the word out. I again want to note there has been no time deducted from public comment, but again, just restructured. So if we...
Silencing of the First Amendment. Are you out of your minds?
So that's the second time you've interrupted in a meeting, and so I'm going to ask the chair again that we want.
I'm sorry, we're in public comment, right? We will not take questions from the audience unless it's, if you have questions in regard to if you should fill out a card, Ms. Clark could probably help you with that, but we can't really continue taking questions from the audience.
Yeah, and again, sorry that, again, that took people by surprise, but beyond that, if we can get an email out just so that folks know that there's a new structure, they can come a little bit later in the meeting, et cetera, watch from home. Again, even starting later, parents complain about having to feed their kids, get to other priorities, et cetera. This opportunity allows people to do that. So thank you.
Dr. Weisberg.
Thank you. Along those lines, I asked Dr. Hill if we can also put something posted in writing by the comment cards that explains what the white cards are for. And also just to reiterate, the time has also not been shortened. Everybody still has 5 minutes. So I appreciate everybody's flexibility tonight because it is a bit of a surprise.
Will you also provide the list of the agenda item numbers? Will that be available to?
The agenda, so
item.
yes, but I
Can
think.
we get her a copy of the agenda?
The agenda
We're not
is
able-
up there by the cards, but you wouldn't know that. So we will work on, this is helpful for us. So we will work on making sure that we make this clear. And we're happy to go grab you an agenda as well.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
I also wanted to thank Ms. Williams for coming and speaking and say that, part of the study session that Mr. Ferguson requested in regards and communication, I think we're always striving to be better. And one of the things I heard you say at the beginning is it would have been really helpful for your kiddo and for you to have a little bit more guidance from us about the transition process. Not about the personnel issues, because we can't speak to that. But I think what I heard you say, and I hope I'm not incorrect, is that just that communication was really lacking. So I think that's something that we can always strive to be better at. I know we need to be better at it sometimes, so I'm going to really take that to heart and think about how we can more effectively communicate to both parents and to kiddos when a big change like this, especially for young kiddos, happens. It's a really important point, and I appreciate it. That's all I got.
Any further board member responses? No? Okay. We'll move on to item 12, the new and unfinished business. Item 12A, adoption of Resolution 15, recognizing December 10th, 2021 as Human Rights Day.
President Brittner.
Mr. Ferguson.
I will move the board adopt Resolution 15 recognizing December 10th, 2021 as Human Rights Day as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Ferguson, seconded by Dr. Weisberg. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Item 12B, adoption of Resolution 16 for the elimination or reduction of services for classified positions.
Do we want to read the resolution first before going to 12B, or is that on Human Rights Day?
Oh, I've got, yes, please,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All good?
Yes.
No, just checking in. Resolution number 15, recognizing December 10th, 2021 as Human Rights Day. Whereas on December 10th, 1948, the General Assembly of the United Nations adopted the first universal Declaration of Human Rights, proclaiming that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. And whereas since this historic declaration 70 years ago, December 10th has been recognized internationally as Human Rights Day. And whereas the Board of Education strongly supports the efforts to promote human rights through education and programs that promote equal rights, tolerance, understanding, and the recognition and appreciation of human diversity, and to encourage community dialogue concerning issues of tolerance and respect for human rights. And whereas the Board of Education supports the activities and achievements of the Commission on Human Rights in advancing human dignity and promoting tolerance and understanding of our differences in our community, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education, in support of day to promote personal and community actions which will advance human dignity, tolerance, and harmony among all people, hereby recognizes December 10th, 2021 to be Human Rights Day in the Burbank Unified School District.
Yes, Dr. Agakanian.
Thank you. And thank you for reading the resolution. Speaking, since we're talking about the topic of human rights, I do want to let the public know and be vigilant with members and parents and students from the Armenian community. 2 days ago, the Azeri aggression started again. 15 lives were taken in one day, and 10 soldiers were taken in. So again, I know in the past we've passed a resolution condemning the actions, but I just want everyone to be vigilant and understand that, you know, this aggression is starting again, and it's keeping some of the parents in a very difficult situation, since some of them have family and friends over there. But again, I just wanted to thank you for reading the resolution and thank everyone for their understanding.
And thank you for the reminder, as I was moving a little bit too quickly there. So now we will move on to 12B, adoption of Resolution 16 for the elimination or reduction of services for classified positions.
President Frittner.
Mr. Ferguson.
I will move that the Board of Education adopt Resolution 16 for the elimination or reduction of services for classified positions as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Ferguson, seconded by Dr. Agakanian. Dr. Neiman? Oh, she's not here. Dr. Hill.
Dr. Hill, he, him, his. On this item, we have one vacant position. It's a 3-hour health service assistant position. Since it's vacant, they are actually going to eliminate this position and create a health service assistant LVN RN. So we need a different skill position on this.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. We'll move on to 13, the consent agenda.
President Frittner.
Mr. Ferguson.
I will move consent calendar items 13A and B. I'm going to pull C just because public comment was on that. So if we can consider those pulled when public pulls that in a way, I think that's a good tradition. So 13A and B and 13D through 13O, and then doing a separate motion for 13C.
Second.
Just making notes so I get this correct.
A little confirmation or clarity here on your request.
I feel like when a member of the public comments on the consent calendar, I just, as a personal privilege, I'm pulling it as a board member to vote on it separately, just to acknowledge that we've heard that comment and that we're not just rubber stamping the whole thing.
Okay, so item 13C is pulled, so we have, the motion is to approve items 13A and B and 13D through O. Is there any discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Measure carries 5-0, and we'll move to 13C.
President Frittner.
Mr. Ferguson.
I will move that the Board of Education approve Personnel Report Number 21-22-07, covering certificated and classified personnel and consisting of pages 1 through 20 inclusive, as presented.
Second.
Ms. Tavitt got in that one. It's been moved by Mr. Ferguson, seconded by Ms. Tavitt on item 13C. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. We'll move on. Tonight we have one retirement to note. It is Mr. Richard Lightfoot. He's a teacher at John Burroughs High School, has been a teacher at multiple schools in our district, began his service in 1990. So congratulations, Mr. Lightfoot. We wish you well in your retirement. My child went on a trip in 8th grade that Mr. Lightfoot was one of the trip to Washington, D.C., and Mr. Lightfoot was one of the guides, did a great job. So congratulations. We'll move on to our last public request period. An individual or group representative may address the Board of Education on any agenda item or subject within its jurisdiction by completing a blue request card. Speakers are requested to state their name prior to speaking to the board. Not more than 5 minutes may be allotted to each speaker, except by unanimous consent of the Board of Education. The superintendent may refer the matter to the proper department for review. So I currently have 4 blue cards. Our first speaker is Eric Hawk. I apologize if I got it wrong. To be followed by Roberto Villarta.
So no need for apology, Eric Hawk. It's the first time you've seen the name, but I've had it my whole life, so it's all right.
Double A at first, and that's usually that. So
no worries, no harm done. Well, good evening, members of the Burbank Board of Education. My name is Eric Hawk, Vice President of the Burbank Community Band. I have a 2-part public comment. Both parts relate to Burbank's very own Burbank Community Band. The first part of my public comment relates to the band and the services that it provides to schools here in Burbank and neighboring communities. The Burbank Community Band is a volunteer concert band with 50 to 60 members and has been in Burbank since at least the 1940s, when at that time it was made up of musicians who were also Lockheed Aviation employees. The band has musicians who play a variety of instruments, from flutes, clarinets, saxophones, trumpets, trombones, tubas, French horns, baritones, drums, and on occasion, one instrument that I've remembered from my early school days as one of the only words that starts with the letter X, the xylophone. The music the band plays covers a wide range of styles, from patriotic marches by John Philip Sousa to motion picture soundtracks from Disney to other studios appropriate for the entertainment center that is Burbank, to music from Broadway musicals as well as familiar classical pieces. And all sound great when performed by a large band of musicians skillfully playing a wide variety of instruments together. A week ago, the band performed at the city's Veterans Day ceremony at McCambridge Park with a variety of musical pieces honoring those who have served, including one piece remembering the 80th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor, which will be 80 years in just a few days. Some of the musical pieces performed have already been uploaded to the band's website, burbankband.org, as well. In addition to performances in coordination with Burbank's Veterans Affairs Council, a service that the Burbank Community Band provides in its history is to perform school assemblies. Of course, over the past 20 months of this pandemic, this has prevented us from providing this service, but with the welcome return of in-person learning happening, I wish to come to this meeting to share that the Burbank Band is available for assembly concerts for schools. I should add that our band's performances for schools not only include a nice variety of musical pieces, but because we're performing for children who are very likely to become the next generation of musicians, that we also use part of our time to show off the sounds of each of the different instruments, from the light and delicate sounds of the flute to the thunderous booming notes of the tuba. So I just wish to present to this board in the event that there may be an opportunity for our local band to share music with the schools of this district. The second and final part of my public comment relates to our band's rehearsals. For years, the Burbank Community Band has rehearsed at Robert E. Gross Park on Empire Avenue here in the city of Burbank, a park donated to the city by Lockheed after the aviation company transitioned from Burbank. For the last few months, the band resumed its rehearsals after a year and a half long hiatus. And has been having regular Friday morning, 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. rehearsals outdoors at this park. Well, as the cooler temperatures of winter approach, the band is looking for an indoor rehearsal space. Many of our previous alternative sites are not currently available due to pandemic-related rule changes. If this board knows of a location where the band may be able to rehearse over the winter months on Friday mornings, we would love to work with this body so that we could keep the band's chops up. Thank you very much for this opportunity to present to this board, and I welcome any questions or comments that you may have, and I hope you all have a very happy Thanksgiving as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is, yes, I'm sorry, we take all the speakers and then we have responses. Our next speaker is Roberto Vialta, to be followed by Kelly Dunkel.
Good evening, Mr. Frickner, President of the Board, Mr. Matt Hill, and the rest of the board. I missed the last many board meeting, but for somehow I didn't get the invitation through my district email. But anyway, well, this year is almost done. And I'm so proud that working hard in Dolores Huerta, this is my third year since I switched my chief since night crew. It was a tough year for everyone, and special for the custodian I represent. Proud because they're hard workers. This is the only department has been working full time, since the pandemic started. No one else was working 5 days a week. It's custodian. I hear good news from you that we hire a new custodian for hours in McKinley. And I hear another news that we hire only 3 sub-custodians during this pandemic. It is true, Debbie? I don't know, but that's what I hear. But anyway, our department of custodian is still struggling. I was on vacation last Friday, and still no one was working for me. I received an email from the district office that there's no on the site. Can you believe it? In this pandemic, no custodian on the site. This is hard. And hearing one of those night supervisor working and cleaning school because there's no SAT. And let me tell you something I hear this morning. This is really sad news because one of those substitutes custodian, Mr. Michael Johnson, I spoke to him going home, and he told me that he didn't get his pay on October. I don't know what happened, but finally he get his full pay after 2 months. And you know what? He left our district. Well, those are such custodian working for almost 3 years. I know him. We work together. And he left our district because for somehow, I can say there's mistake. We're human. But he get the check after 2 months. Unbelievable. A sad custodian working in October, and he didn't get paid. I mentioned this in our negotiation team. It is hard. It's hard for, hear those kind of news that somebody's working and they don't get his own pay in the month. So is Michael Johnson, is you watching me? I told him this today that I want to give a good example to him. That's the reason that our district is failing every day. And on November 3rd, the district, the website didn't post any position for sub custodian. We checked and there's none opening. There is another mistake from, I don't know why, no post every day that we need sub custodian. I represent this department in grounds that is still hiring during this pandemic. So it's shameful. Another thing I want to remind you about the education, the Ewing study, the job description. How can the all union committee decide to pay 12 cents for two custodians? That's why we reject this Ewing study. We didn't vote for yes because there's no fair for all employees in this district. So it is difficult to see how some employees get more position, more range, more salary, and this is not privacy. I went to the website and checked all the salaries, and one of those operation worker in 2019 get reclass, and he get almost $20,000 because he was reclass. And my custodian didn't get the reclass this year. I hear many stories that custodians are calling to work in another site and do extra jobs. This is not fair for our custodian. So parents, please call to Mr. Matt Hill starting tomorrow and say, what happened with this department? Next year, I promise to you, we're gonna fill this house and we're gonna show our presence next year because enough is enough.
Please wrap up your comments, Mr. Villanueva.
We have new election for this December, and I'm running for my second term.
You're over your time, sir. Please wrap up
Thank
your
you so
comments.
much, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving to one. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Kelly Dunkel, to be followed by Val Sarkeesian.
Good evening, President Frittner, members of the board, Dr. Hill, and staff. My name is Kelly Dunkel. I'm a parent of 4. My 2 oldest are in college now. My third boy is a junior at Burbank High, and my youngest, my daughter, is a 8th grader at John Muir, who had Miss Cheatham last year, so congratulations to Miss Cheatham. As you know, on Friday, November 5th, we had a non-credible threat made against schools in Burbank that originated in Texas. And I'm not certain what time on November 5th the Burbank police deemed the threat not credible, but word got out quickly, spread on social media, and overtook any district's plan to address it. For example, Dr. Miller was hosting his coffee with the principal from 8:30 to 9:30, and even before the halfway mark, parents were leaving this event before he was eventually called out. And students at Burbank High began leaving campus before Dr. Paramo's email was sent out at 9:39 a.m. Eventually, over 1,700 students left or were taken off campus by their parents. And what brings me down here to address this before the board tonight are the conversations I had with many angry parents about this, and to ask why this non-credible event wasn't treated like the non-credible event it was. protocols that were established to keep our students safe weren't followed. For example, the Glen Oaks gate was left open, allowing students to simply leave the campus without going through the rigorous checkout procedure. Who opened the Glen Oaks gate, and did they have the authority to do so? I really would like the board to look into that. Next, students were allowed to leave campus with individuals not on their emergency contact list. What's the point of having an emergency contact list if you're not going to be following this? Next, students who wished to leave were allowed to congregate in Burbank High's quad rather than waiting for a call slip in their classrooms, which is the normal protocol. So again, why have this protocol if you're not going to follow it, especially in a non-credible threat situation? If there was no actual emergency, why was there such a rush to release students in a manner that resulted in Burbank staff not following established protocols for releasing students? And another thing, why did the PA system not work? And if it's currently not working, when will it be fixed? The first email sent out at 9:39 was from Dr. Paramo, someone who, although I know him, isn't well known to Burbank High parents. So that email should have come from Dr. Crowther. And that terse 4-sentence email essentially said, districts made aware of the threat. Burbank Police Department was immediately notified. Burbank Police Department has not deemed this a credible threat, and you will be updated. But there was nothing to reassure parents that our campus is safe and that our students that remain on campus will be safe too. So parents are left with, making a decision that's more on emotion and not on, hey, this is a non-credible threat. We can trust our school, and we can trust our district staff, and we can trust the Burbank Police Department. So, why didn't this email mention that the threat was actually a similarly named high school in Texas? Now, this has happened before, and parents were made aware that, hey, this is from a school in Texas. That should have happened again this time. The second email about the event did come from Dr. Crowther, and at 1:36. But it had no additional factual information, although he did say our campus remains safe, that's appropriate. Obviously, he should have said that. But unfortunately, with 1,700 plus students already exited from the campus, that was too little too late. Our campus remains safe, your student is safe, should have come from Dr. Crowther in that very first email, and it should have been done as soon as the Burbank PD had contacted the district. It should also have been followed with an all-call phone blast to reach even more parents. It should have been using the Remind app, and perhaps even instructing their students, you have permission to text your parents and let them know you're okay. Everything's okay. But students who remained in their classroom, like my student, did not receive any announcements from Dr. Crowther. They had to rely on updates from their teachers, from those teachers that chose to update. And my student reported to me that not every student gave an update. So my recommendations is to include a review of all school safety plans to ensure that protocols in place for non-credible threats are followed. And that would also include a systems check of your PA systems, your walkie-talkies, your use of all-call phone blasts, and also the Remind app. And perhaps even have a pre-authorized wording of an email that that the principals can send out immediately.
I'm sorry, Ms. Dunkel, you have to wrap up your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Val Sarkeesian, and at the present time, that is the last blue card I have. If anyone else would like to fill out a blue card, please do so and get it to Ms. Clark. Ms. Sarkeesian.
My apologies for asking questions earlier. It's my first time, so I'm really nervous.
And it's our first time with the adjustment, so it's not a problem.
Hello, President Frittner, Superintendent Dr. Hill, BOSD board members, staff, community, and families. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Val Sarkeesian, and I'm a parent to 2 BOSD students. In the words of the late, great Ruth Bader Ginsburg, speak your mind even if your voice shakes. So here I am, scared, with my voice shaking and all. I'm scared for many reasons. I'm scared for my kids and other families, scared that they will be discriminated and retaliated against for their parents wanting the right to choose. Let me make this clear. We are not an anti-vaccine family. My children are fully vaccinated with all their vaccines except the COVID-19 vaccine. I am just super scared of this vaccine, no matter who says it's safe. I don't feel good about it deep in my heart. My husband and myself are both fully vaccinated against COVID. We also all had COVID earlier this year. My kids had a low-grade fever and a headache for 2 days, and then they were back to 100%. COVID is absolutely real. It's not the flu, and it is not fun. But we are just not comfortable giving this vaccine to our children at this time. I also know, and I'm so grateful, that BUSD wants to keep our kids safe. I think we can all agree that keeping our kids safe is the absolute and universal goal. But why is it that the only safety being considered is being vaccinated? Why is immunity from the vaccine the golden standard? Both natural and vaccine immunity are immunity. If this was about keeping people safe, then natural antibodies would suffice just as well for us to continue to progress and not require mandates in schools or anywhere for that matter. It's been over 6 months since we've had COVID and my children still have antibodies. Per the County of LA Department of Public Health, if you're exposed to COVID-19 and are fully vaccinated or have tested positive and recovered in the last 90 days, you don't have to quarantine. This means that natural immunity is real and just as good and possibly even better than immunity from the vaccine. I wouldn't suggest anyone going and getting COVID. That's not what I'm saying. But with natural immunity, you can't get it or spread it, but with the vaccine, you can still give and get. And we've seen it with the hundreds of thousands of breakthrough cases of vaccinated people testing positive. As you're all aware, the spread amongst children is very, very low. Per Dr. Hill's email a few weeks ago, less than 0.5% of BUSD students tested positive. I don't remember how many tests were given, but I know that it was a lot. During the recent town hall meeting that we had on November 8th with Dr. Janina Morrison with the Department of Public Health, she stated that from March 1st, 2020 until October 26, 2021, there have been 94 child deaths across the entire United States for ages 0 to 18, across the entire United States. And in LA County, 7. I pray and I feel for those families, and I would never want to be in their shoes. But we can't ignore the fact that there are 73 million children ages 0 to 17 in the United States, 1.9 million cases of COVID, and 94 child deaths, which brings the percentage to 0.004947, less than 0.5%. She also mentioned that science isn't always right, and that at one point they said formula was just as good for babies as breast milk, but then realized it wasn't and admitted that science got that wrong. Science is amazing, obviously, but science is also ever-changing. This vaccine is too fresh for it to be part of the list of mandatory vaccines for schools when it hasn't even been around for a year. Help us parents feel safe too. Just 2 days ago, the Newhall School District, which is about 25 minutes north of Burbank, had their entire school board vote in favor of a resolution against mandating the vaccine. The teachers, school board, and superintendent pushed through and did what they believed was best for the children. When BUSD went back to school last year for the final 6 weeks, which was 2 hours, 2 times a week, they had already been back in school with 30 plus kids for a full school day. I understand that BUSD is super cautious and usually follows in LAUSD's steps, but I'm humbly asking you to keep our small district separate. I would love for our district to stand on its own, stop following what USD is doing, and start listening to the families that it serves. There are way more of us families against this than you know. They're all just too afraid to speak up in fear of being shamed. I understand that mandates aren't coming down the pipeline until June or July of 2022, but I'm speaking up now in hopes that it inspires others to realize that we can't sit around praying for this not to go through, that we have to get up, show up, and stand up for what we believe is right now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. At this time, I have no other blue cards. I will make one last call if anyone would like to turn one in. I don't see anyone moving forward, so I will close public comment, and we will move on to superintendent's comments and responses. Dr. Hill?
Thank you, President Frittner, and thank you to all the speakers this evening. Mr. Hawk, thank you for the informative update. My oldest son right now is doing a cello concert, and my youngest son loves the xylophone. So it was great to hear you mention the xylophone. We will connect you. If you want to contact me and share your information, we'll make sure our principals know about assemblies and Ms. Flynn as well. And then for the auditorium practice, I don't know if it's available, but if you go to our website under the facilities department, we have a facilities use button. And you can click on that and you have information to be able to request facility space. And I recommend you just ask them to see if the adult school auditorium is available. I don't know if it will be, but that's the only one I can think of that we may not be using during those hours. But thank you again for coming down. Mr. Viarta, thank you for coming down. Ms. Kukta will follow up with you on some of your comments. They're very specific. I know our payroll division works extremely hard. That's the first I've heard that a substitute didn't get paid, but Ms. Kukta will look into that and follow up with you. On the sub-custodian posting, yes, we run these advertisements in EdJoin, and sometimes they expire, so it came down, and we didn't notice that, so we put it back up. It is up there now. We're constantly recruiting for substitute custodians and full-time custodians for the vacancies that we have. And then regarding the job study, that was over a 6-year process. District and CSCA worked together. They benchmarked compensations. They reviewed all the job descriptions, benchmarked compensations. It's a very thoughtful process. So I appreciate you coming down. I disagree with your comments that was biased. They looked at everything holistically. The 12 cents adjustment is for everybody. That establishes a new salary schedule. Our salary schedule is compacted right now. So we want to be able to move forward, make that adjustment, look at the next minimum wage in addition to the job studying. So I'm sorry to hear that it sounds like a lot of members voted no on the job study. I know there's been a lot of work in that. I haven't heard the results. I don't know if that meant it didn't pass, but that would be disappointing if it didn't pass. So for Ms. Dunkel, thank you so much for your comments. And first of all, I would love to follow. You got cut off, but I want to continue to hear your recommendations and feedback. And for any community member parents, we want the feedback for the events for that non-credible threat. We do an after-action report and review after each event, and we highlighted a lot of the issues or challenges that you mentioned. Communication could have been stronger. I take responsibility. I do want to be clear on the communication. And it was Dr. Promo and I working on that together in the moment after consulting with Burbank Police Department. Your suggestions are spot on. We were trying to get it out as quick as we had information in real time. It came out from Dr. Promo's email because we were in his office. But it should have been me, and it should have been out with the school sites much quicker. And we should have been very clear about, we know it's not credible, your students are safe, the school is safe. All your suggestions around our safety plans and protocols, we are reviewing those right now at each school site. They're doing the same after-action report, and we've talked about that. We've had principal meetings, and we are implementing those in real time. So it's not we're just waiting for the plan or waiting for the next thing. We're reviewing them, we're updating that, we're making sure that they are there, and we're practicing those. So I want to continue the conversation. Again, anyone that has feedback, please reach out to me. Just your question about the PA system, yes, there should have been a backup communication system in place even if it was down. It is fixed as of today, but that's no excuse for us not to have a backup system. Ms. Sarkeesian, thank you so much, and to you and your family for coming down here. We've had a lot of passionate discussion about the vaccine mandate. You were definitely very informed as you researched this. I appreciate you coming to our website, the town hall we had. It is posted on the website for anyone that missed it. We're trying to get as much information as possible so parents can make informed decisions. You're right, natural immunity is there, but after 90 days it does decline. And so as you research that, LA County Department of Public Health says then you need additional immunity, and that's the vaccine. But there's a lot of information for parents to digest, so we're putting it out through our website. There's actually another one tonight that we pushed out through LA Valley College. But we're going to continue to do that. And we're not following LA Unified, we're following the state mandate. And the state mandate will not take effect until it's full FDA approval, and that has not taken in effect yet. But I really appreciate the research you're doing and presenting that. We're struggling with that as parents and community, how to do it the right way. Right now, we're in the real information phase. As a parent, as a superintendent, I've done my research, and I personally feel it's safe for my boys. And so I'm encouraging others to do their research and make that same choice. We are putting on optional vaccine clinics for children right now that filled up right away. We're working to try to get more of those clinics, but there's a lot of information out there to learn about. I feel it is the top thing that we can do to keep each other safe, in addition to masks and social distancing and health protocols. We've changed the format, so those are my responses to public comment, but also this is an opportunity for me as superintendent to do superintendent comments, so I want to transition to that. Number one, I know we're going into Thanksgiving break and we're going into winter break. I want to encourage all of our parents and all of our students to stay focused on instruction priority one. It's been a long year, and I know a lot of people want to take an early vacation or to leave. We're gonna get our Thanksgiving break Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Please make sure you're at school tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday. Our teachers are putting in the work to make sure you get your education. And then those weeks in December, please make sure you're going to school every day. You're gonna get a break at the winter break. I know we're tired. Hang in there. Focus on instruction. We want to keep those steady habits going and getting through. So I just want to make sure that we all finish strong and focus on instruction. Second, in order to be able to focus on instruction and be in school, health and safety protocols are essential right now. We cannot get lax. I know a lot of people want to have gatherings and just get together, but we need to make sure we remember that last year at this time is when we saw a surge, and it's because we gathered and got together. COVID is not over. We have to follow our health and safety protocols, and we're seeing numbers start to rise. I was on a call today with Dr. Ferrer, and she said the numbers are growing in our community, which means they would grow in our schools again. We don't want that to happen. We want to have a restful, thankful Thanksgiving and winter break, so we want to be healthy, not trying to recover from COVID. So please follow those health and safety protocols. And then last, I just want to just wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. I want to focus on the thankfulness, but I also want to focus on, we talked Indigenous Peoples Month, and make sure that we're teaching our children and teaching ourselves the true history around Thanksgiving. So we do want to be grateful and thankful, but we also want to remember what happened to our Indigenous people during this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. We'll move on to board members' comments and responses. We'll start tonight with Dr. Agakanian.
Thank you, President Friedner. First, let me start with Mr. Hawk. Thank you very much for your comments. If you don't find a place, you can come to my garage and practice if you want to. I do also play certain instruments, and I do presentations to kids. My nickname is the Duke of Duduk. I play the Armenian, the Duduk, yeah. Which is it's a double reed oboe kind of, and I was just before the pandemic, I was at Edison. Kids love to hear this ancient instruments. Not so much dogs. Dogs don't like the ancient bagpipes. They go crazy because it's just squeaky, and so my neighbors don't like it when I play the bagpipes. But But I love the idea because children are so fascinated. And the earlier you start, and when you teach them where these instruments come from, these are the grandfathers of the oboes. And so I really appreciate what you're doing. I have been to several events that you performed. I didn't know it was you, but now that I officially know, I will go to your website and be very supportive of what you do because what you do is wonderful. So thank you very much for doing what you do. To Ms. Sarkisian, thank you very much. I know it takes a lot of courage to come and speak. As a parent, I'm also concerned, and I'm also doing my research. But I do appreciate you coming and talking about this issue. And, my hope is that by next year, the time that you said 2020, we don't have this issue there will be something out there, a solution or some kind of I don't know. I mean, it's difficult. And I understand as a parent it concerns you. But I do want to thank you and your family for being here and staying. To Ms. Duncan, thank you very much for your for bringing this up and to the points, and I completely agree. And thank you very much for always being here and informing us and about the concerns. It is a matter that we're looking at, and thank you very much for, again, and it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. So, and then to our friend, I know that we're talking about these issues, but I think it's something that that we're talking about all the time in sense of what we have to do. But thank you for being here and talking about the concerns in terms of our brothers and sisters from your union. And with that, I also wish all of our viewers a safe Thanksgiving, and I want to remind everyone that how blessed we are as a community, as a nation, to have the opportunities to have these conversations, but at the same time also, to have the opportunity to be around our loved ones. I've lost too many people this year to COVID. Just lost another one, 41-year-old gentleman, 41. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Agakanian. Dr. Weisberg.
Thank you. Dr. Weisberg, she, her, hers. I want to start off by thanking everybody so much for coming and being here and being flexible with the new structure. I know it took a little bit of getting used to, and it still will. Mr. Hawk, thank you so much. I can tell just by the way you explained it to us, you're a fantastic teacher and probably get all of the students really excited and enthusiastic. So thank you. Brought me back to like my kazoo recorder days. I was bad at those. Mr. Vallarta, thank you as always for coming here and speaking so passionately. I hope that the information that Dr. Hill shared helped clarify a few things, but that you'll always come back and talk with us about other concerns that you have. Ms. Dunkel, thank you. I echo Dr. Hill that I think your suggestions and recommendations were spot on. I know I speak for the whole board when I say that we are concerned and invested in figuring out how to address the issues that happen and work on our communication. And we're really taking to heart, I think we're receiving a lot of feedback, and it's all really, really helpful and instructive. So I hope you'll feel comfortable reaching out again, contacting us. Sounds like you're going to talk with Dr. Hill some more, but again, I know that this experience was, the word difficult is not correct. I can't think of a better word, but to have experienced it in real time and then re-experience it is hard. But I really appreciate you coming and sharing your thoughts, and I hope you'll feel open to talking with any of us as we move forward. Ms. Sarkeesian, thank you. I think you set a phenomenal example for your children by coming here and helping them see that if you want to speak up, if you want to make change, you have to come and do it. You have to speak up. So it's a great example for your kiddos. I'm glad they got to be here and do the little phone recording. Pretty awesome. I think it is challenging when you hear language like this. It's a state mandate, because it sounds like we're sort of shoving blame onto somebody else. We're really not following LAUSD. We are following the state. I hope, I was also at the town hall. I thought it was really informative. She was great, I thought, and really helpful. But I hope you'll just continue having conversations with us about this. Thankfully, this is not happening tomorrow, so that we can talk about ways to help you and your family feel more comfortable. So I hope you'll continue to, if you don't want to come back here, reach out to us, reach out to Dr. Hill. We'll sit down and talk. But I hope this is the beginning of a conversation for all of you. And I do appreciate you enormously waiting, taking the time, and sharing really well thought out, researched, thoughtful comments. So thank you to you, and thank you to your kiddos who are here at almost 9 o'clock at night on a Thursday. The last thing that I wanted to say is very briefly, there are some amazing things happening at our public library that I don't know how many people are super, super into it, but I am. big nerd, but I don't know that people know how many free resources are available. They're brand new, and it's because of our partnership with Cal State. But everything from LinkedIn Learning to Skillshare to Learning Express, North Star, Get Set Up, Press Reader, which gives you access to newspapers and magazines for free, ABC Mouse, which is early learning for kids 0 to 5. There are so many resources that we have access to, even stuff like Ancestry.com. So amazing free resources that aren't just for students, they're also for adult learners. I wanted to share just because I got a great update about it and I was so excited. I wanted to share it because I think sometimes we don't know what our library is offering, and they're offering phenomenal things. So I wanted to bring that up, and as everybody does, wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And if you want to learn a little bit more about the native lands that we're all living on, there's a great website. It's native/land.ca, and you type in your address and it tells you which native lands you're living on. It tells you about the different tribes. It's a really interesting way of learning about native lands and the Native Americans that we are now sort of the land we're living and working on. So I think it's really interesting, and it's a really cool way to sort of bring a different perspective to Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Dr. Weisberg. Mr. Ferguson.
Thank you. First to Mr. Huck, thank you for coming down, for introducing yourself, for saying hello. I have seen the band for years. I was born and raised here. Also a viola player, so I can hang out with Matt's son with that low C. But other than that, there's quite a few musical folks up here. So anyway, but you have found a great home in our district also. So again, love the willingness to partner, the eagerness to partner. And again, as technological as we get, nothing really replaces the connection with a musical instrument. Just so true. So again, looking forward to partnerships and if feasible, getting you in someplace so we can, again, keep community assets and programs going. So again, welcome and don't hesitate to come back because we're allies. And good to see you guys coming back to full strength. To Mr. Viarta, hello, sir. Good to see you. And thanks for coming down after a hard day. Without a doubt, hear you on all the different fronts as it results to custodial. Earlier in this meeting, I requested a budget study session. A part of that inquiry, right, is looking into budget allocations that we're going to need to continue to make, sometimes around custodial, right, reviewing, do we need additional supports? It's pretty clear that no matter what we've done, additional support is needed. So we've got to figure out, what's going to work there. Hopefully we have supply chain issues, hiring issues that taper off that allow us in the beginning of the year to more directly and expeditiously address the challenges that you and your members are talking about. But again, I don't want you to stop talking. We need to keep this going because it is an area of focus. I've heard it personally from the superintendent. I've heard it from staff that they are committed to trying to alleviating as much of this as we possibly can, considering all the different challenges we're facing. So again, I want to encourage you to keep communicating and to keep working with us. Again, logistically, we've got, a dozen or so folks with posting authority with the ability to get these things done. And yes, and thank you for acknowledging human moments happen. But you're right. And this has been a long time coming and a long time this conversation has been necessary. So again, we're not hiding from it. It's just going through the process and we're continuing to discuss it as budget priorities are set for the following year. But thank you for your comments. To Ms. Dunkel, thank you for coming down tonight. This is going to be a process that we are going through. I think the worst thing that could possibly happen is for this to happen and for us not to learn the lessons we need to, and for us to miss something in the course of an investigation in terms of our core responsibility of keeping kids safe. It's clear that there were several issues, right? But again, I think it's one thing to get the answers now, and trust me, I want them. But I am going to trust this process through, and accountability will be had. It absolutely will. But it will not be passionate. It will be based on what we see in the course of looking at the scope of events for that day. I will ask that. I also asked for a study session on communications. I'll ask that emergency communications be a specific mention as a part of that discussion. Also, that social media be incorporated into that, school social media accounts, so that, again, we can get more expeditious direction to staff on the direction we want to go for multiple avenues of hopefully communication moving forward. So, but I will say, as a lifelong resident of this community and an alumni of that institution, there is nothing more shaking to your core than when you see 1,500, over 1,000 students asking for help. That's our job. So I am, like a bulldog, committed to getting a very thorough analysis of what happened. Ms. Sarkeesian, first of all, I am so happy that you and your family recovered from COVID and are doing well. Also, for a first-time speech, you did pretty well. So, I get emotional too, I get passionate too, and it is hard to sack. I don't know what it is that podium, and it's the podium of tears, honestly, because people are so passionate about what they believe, and there's nothing wrong with what it is that you believe. There is the very real public health challenge that we're dealing with, right? And you've heard us. We are going above and beyond to try and keep folks, including your family, safe. I get that there are a ton of questions on the vaccine. And as somebody who was pushing harder on the employee side, I have taken steps back in an effort really, again, to give parents time to connect with what facts and resources they need to feel safe about that decision with their most precious loved ones, right? So I'm very sensitive to that. I will say, though, there is a deadline looming, and we do not have control over that deadline in large part. What I want to make sure is that we are compassionate in this process. What I want to make sure is that we are ready for a new school year, right, where there are going to be parents and students who struggle with this vaccination, and that we are not over-stigmatizing one group so that that kid can come back to school and still learn, right, without any worry of that. So we're on the same page on a lot of fronts, but I want to just encourage you, as you continue to do research and make decisions that's right for your family, there is the Indiana Jones big ball. It's coming, and there's nothing we can do to slow that. But in the meantime, please know that you will have the time and patience and space, at least from this board member, as you seek the information you're looking for. But again, thank you for setting a model and an example for your kiddos in doing something scary, but standing up for yourself. So thank you, and thanks for being a part of our community in this real way.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. Ms. Tabbitt.
Not in any particular order, just making comments. And since you finished with the Sarkeesian family, I think I'll start with you. As a mom also, I know these decisions are very difficult to make, and I'm thankful that my children are now in their late 20s and they can make this decision for themselves, and I don't have to be a part of that. Even though they have all chosen to be vaccinated, and I'm happy for that, because as you said, it's important. It's just difficult to make that decision for your children, not quite having all the facts or being comfortable with the facts that are there. I just want to make sure as a district that we are prepared and have a plan for when this is implemented, and we know the children who aren't going to be vaccinated or have chosen not to be vaccinated, what our plan is for them, so that we can still provide the same quality, rigorous education that the kids who are going to come to campus are going to get. And that's really important to me. So, well, I just talked about not separating, and you just said it. Okay. Anyway, thank you. So that's my concern. Ms. Dunkel, thank you very much for coming down, and I appreciate the fact that when a parent or a community member such as yourself feels that whatever for whatever happened, that there's an issue, that you just didn't come and say, you've got an issue, fix it, but you came with some ideas and thoughts of how things should be or should go. So I am appreciative of that. Mr. Vallarta, I always say his last name wrong. I apologize. So, but Roberto, thank you for coming down once again and speaking on behalf of the fellow of your colleagues, the custodians. One of the most difficult jobs on our campuses is especially when you have large campuses like at Dolores Huerta. Just having one doesn't work. Sometimes there's a whole crew that needs to be involved to get through the day, and I understand that isn't, that doesn't always happen, and we're working hard to make sure that we have enough custodians. Something did happen today, Ms. Kutka, that hopefully you could look into, along with what Roberto was saying about the substitute custodian that didn't get paid. And my understanding is we have a new payroll system, but it doesn't accommodate maybe substitutes and anyone working overtime or extra duties. It's taking a couple of months to get paid because it's being done by hand, is my understanding. So it makes it difficult to fill those extra duties when people don't think they're going to get paid in a timely manner. So could we look into that and see what we could do to structure something to make sure that happens and to expedite that pay for those folks? I belong to part of an organization that would crumble without the support of a custodian who go above and beyond to do amazing work for us. And I'm very appreciative. And, we pay for that service. So I want to make sure the money gets to them as timely as possible. So hopefully that'll help a little bit. Mr. Hawk, I've heard of your community group. A lot of my friends who are musicians, myself included, although that's a loosely held term in my consideration, but I do enjoy playing when I get the opportunity to. And really, having a community band right here in Burbank is great. I played in the Pasadena Community Concert Band under Paul Killian for years. It was awesome, but it was in the evening. And it made it really easy for working folks who still want to play to participate. And of course, budget cuts, that program is no longer available. Is there any consideration to having the community band have rehearsals in the evening? It certainly would be easier for us to have a location for you to practice if you did it in the evening. If there was evening rehearsals, I'd love to come participate again. Yeah, right? You can all come see our performances. Anyway, just a thought. Thank you for coming. I did see a picture of you on Facebook the other day. Not you, but the band, the community band. And many of my band alumni friends were commenting about, oh, we didn't realize there was a band. Gosh, it'd be really great if they rehearsed at night because we'd like to participate. So, all right. Anyway, those are my thoughts and see how we can help you. Thank you very much. Yes, again, happy Thanksgiving. Please have a restful, relaxing vacation. And Superintendent Hill, thank you for your comments about staying focused on instruction during these holiday times. After all, that's why we're here. And I appreciate you saying that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Steve Frittner, he, him, his. I finally. Thank you to all of our speakers, and especially I appreciate it was a different format, our first time rolling out this format. We are trying to make sure that the business of the school board and the school district gets done, but also still making sure the public has opportunity to speak. So we hope this will be a smoother process going forward, but thank you, especially those of you who stayed for the last section of public comment. Mr. Hawk, great, thank you. I was not aware of your organization, so that sounds fantastic. I wasn't aware, especially that they had been around so long. So congratulations on keeping that band going. As the superintendent pointed out, we can look at the facilities website. I think the adult school auditorium would probably be a perfect space, it seems, if that's available and if it could work. And it would seem like a good place for that band to fit in at the adult school. So I hope that works out. But anyways, thank you for coming out and talking about the organization. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be interested to hear more. Mr. Vialta, thank you for coming out and representing your organization. We appreciate your passion for it. We are aware of the staffing issues with custodial now, as the superintendent pointed out. We have had postings, if they were down for a few days, they did get back up. We're trying to, even through budgetary issues, we are trying to make sure that we are fulfilling the obligation. We know that our staff, our students, deserve a clean place to work and to learn, and we want to continue providing that. As the superintendent pointed out, the job study was a process that had a lot of years put behind it, and a lot of negotiations between the district and the bargaining partner, CSEA. I think there was, as you said, I'm not sure what the vote is, but I think there was a lot of work put towards that, and really a lot of thought put into it. And I'm sorry if it doesn't seem completely fair, but I think we were trying to arrive at that place and worked with your union to arrive at that place. I also have to take exception to one of the things you mentioned. The custodians worked incredibly hard throughout the pandemic, but they were not the only ones who worked 5 days a week. I'm sorry, they weren't. We had people working all through the pandemic and working hard. Everyone has their job to do, and as I said, I have great respect for the job the custodians did, and continue to do. But I also respect the work everyone else is doing in the district too. And no one took days off during the pandemic. Ms. Dunkel, thank you for coming out. Obviously, this is something that is very concerning. We are well aware how concerning it is to the parents and the students of the Burbank High community. It's just as concerning to the district, the administration. As Mr. Ferguson pointed out, there is a process, and we are working through it right now. The superintendent also touched on some of that. Thank you. And one thing I know over the years when you've come and spoken to us, one thing I know that we are going to have is a very clear, precise, detailed, I don't want to say report because they're just your thoughts, but it's almost like a report because you are very, as Ms. Tabbitt said, you don't just come to lecture us about not doing what's right. You also come to offer suggestions, and very good suggestions, because there are all those things, as was pointed out, we are in agreement on. So thank you for all that. I apologize for having to cut it off a little bit. We are trying to, as we move into this new format, we're trying to follow our guidelines, but I do appreciate everything you were saying. Ms. Sarkeesian, thank you. First of all, as Ms. Ferguson said, I'm glad your family was able to work through COVID and recover, and hopefully there's no long-term effects. I know some people have experienced that. You didn't mention it, so I hope that's not the case. Also, as Mr. Ferguson pointed out, at some point, we've all been there being a first-time speaker, so you did a fantastic job, and don't ever hesitate to come back again, because we appreciate when people do come out. You said, ultimately, we all want, the health and safety of our students, and we agree on that. That is what we are all working towards, and what parents are also working towards. It is difficult right now because not everyone is seeing that path the same way. We are facing a mandate from the state, and we don't really have a clear direction on when that might take place. Right now, best possibility seems to be for the next school year, July 1st. But that's not even set in stone because the FDA hasn't done full approval yet. So we have to wait and see where that is. But in the meantime, we are trying to do our research, continue learning, follow the the guidelines that we think really give us the best path towards safety for everyone, for not just our students but our staff. I know this is a common misconception, and it's been said several times. We aren't following LAUSD. We are our own district, our own board. LAUSD is mandating for their students already. That is not a choice that we have made. There are a few other districts in the state that have gone that path. We have chosen not to. We are trying to be as thoughtful as we can during this process. That doesn't mean we, especially if the state mandate does come in, we would almost certainly follow that because we have in the past as far as state mandates go. But we are trying not to rush the process. We are trying to be thoughtful in the process. And I think you said you were on the call last week. I also, as Dr. Weisberg pointed out, I joined that call as well. I thought the doctor was incredibly informative, took a lot of questions, answered a lot of questions, learned some things I didn't know during that call, so it is important to try and find out as much as you can. And that's what we'll continue to do. And hopefully everyone will continue to do the same. We've covered, we're just about done, actually. I think I've covered all our speakers. I will say a couple things. Ms. Terpetrosian from Burbank High mentioned that they recognized Transgender Awareness Week this week. I was very happy to hear that. It is important for our transgender students, and November 20th is the Transgender Day of Remembrance, and people wonder why we bring that up and why it's important, and it is important for a community that suffers at a much higher rate than most. The targeting of violence, and just bullying and lack of acceptance, and that's why it is. I feel it is important. And as a district, we do continuously resolve to show support and acceptance for all our students, but especially those who need more support, and our transgender students certainly are within that category. And lastly, I'll say, as everyone has, Thanksgiving is probably my favorite holiday, honestly. I mean, and growing up, it always was, because it was about food and football. And who doesn't like all that? And it still is, when we get to that day. But it is important to try and learn about the history of it. And there's a lot of history that's been taught, but we need to really look at the complete history, especially when we are in Native American Awareness Month. People say, "Oh, geez, you're ruining it. Don't talk." But it's not to the point of trying to ruin anything. It's just trying to enlighten and try to remember that everything wasn't, there's a lot of people who weren't celebrating Thanksgiving all those years because it meant something much different to their families. So I hope you all do have a wonderful Thanksgiving. As the superintendent said, don't ignore, the academic responsibilities over the next few days. It is important that we do focus while school's in session, but we have a 3-day, 5-day weekend coming next week. So I hope everyone can enjoy that break and just have a wonderful celebration with your families. Dr.
President
Agakani,
Friedner,
you look
are
like...
we expecting your famous pie this year?
No. Sorry, COVID kind of eliminated that. Dr. Hill.
Thank you, President Frittner. I just want to correct the record. I received some information from the president of CSEA. He wanted to make sure it's very clear that the job study package has not been presented to the membership and they have not voted. So I don't want members to feel like there was already a vote and it did not fail because people said no. So I just want to make sure that's clear. So please reach out to your union leadership, get information about job study, find out when it's going to be presented, when there's a vote, and you have a question, Mr. Ayala can address those. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that. Much appreciated. And if there is nothing else, I will adjourn this meeting at 9:14 p.m. in the memory of John Leosis. Thank you.